Arthur puts back his toy. Yes, there is something you can do, my love. Won't you help me through these troubled times?
Hopefully not back up and down.
Good afternoon, everyone. All right. I know some people are still getting seated, but let's move on to our last event for the day and our first day of Design ADAC. All right, y'all. Okay. There we go. I'm Katie, I'm the General Manager of ADAC, and my team and I want to welcome you all for our Spring Market Design ADAC. It's been a really fun first day. Thank you all for being here for all of the events. Before we get started with our talk today, I just want to remind everybody to pick up a copy of that event guide and make sure you're registered for the events that you want to see tomorrow and Thursday. And of course, we have all of the social media handles in the event guide, both for our speakers, our magazine partners, and of course, ADAC. That's at ADAC Atlanta, and we're using the hashtag this week, Design ADAC. So have some fun with us, take pictures. We love seeing what everyone posts throughout the day. And we'll share photos and stories and things like that. So just make sure you have some fun. I want to thank our media partner today, that's Atlanta Magazine and Atlanta Magazine's Home, and our showroom sponsor today, which is Colo Collection. Remember that we're going to go upstairs to Colo after this presentation. That's Suite 323. So can't wait to see you all there. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Betsy Riley, who's the editor-in-chief of Atlanta Magazine.
Hi, thanks, Katie. Well, it's great to see you guys, and welcome. I want to mention a little housekeeping on my end, because I will totally forget by the end, but you'll see in your chair we are starting the new Georgia Design Awards, and this is a new awards program, and so it's statewide, which is fun, and there are going to be all kinds of categories, so if you have a project where you have just a fantastic powder room, you can enter on just the powder room, or a great installation. So there'll be great variety and fun opportunities. So please take your little flyer, and we'd love to have you enter something. I'm going to introduce everybody on our panel, and then we can welcome them all at the end. I'll start here with Nishi Donovan. She's the principal interior designer at Nishi Design Studio. Over the last 12 years, Nishi has designed her way through Atlanta, forging decisively different spaces from large-scale commercial projects to bespoke residential homes. She has infused her maximalist aesthetic into distinctive projects, from styling skyscraper penthouses to building luxury homes. Leveraging her skills with biophilic design, she has delivered high-impact projects from boutique hotels to restaurants, medical facilities, and more. And then next we have Eric Rothman. After architecture school, Eric started and grew an in-house design team for one of the most well-respected residential design build firms in Atlanta. In 2015, Eric and his wife and design partner, Jenny Rothman, started their own design firm, Rothman plus Rothman. Their projects have been featured in local, national, and international publications, garnering numerous awards. Eric's passion for choreographing intimate architecture that reflects the unique character of each homeowner has culminated in a diverse body of work. He is always exploring better ways to sculpt natural light and blur the lines between interior and exterior. His holistic approach, clean lines, interlocking spaces, and purposeful details are all hallmarks of a Rothman design. And then next we have David Cook. David's career in the kitchen and bath design industry stems from a strong construction background. After graduating from the University of Southern Mississippi, followed by graduating at the top of his class at the Art Institute of Atlanta, where he earned his interior design degree, David used his business acumen and drive to build a successful firm. His projects ranged from house renovations to commercial interiors, and of course led to his passion for kitchen and bath design. His fresh perspective, style, and in-depth knowledge of construction were the driving forces in his early course as an independent interior designer in Atlanta. David is the design project manager for the current Meals on Wheels Atlanta renovation, slated to complete any minute. And David and Design Galleria Kitchen and Bath Studio have donated 100% of their time and resources to this new state-of-the-art space. And I know there are a bunch of images of the projects cycling through, so be sure and take a look. And then finally, we have Mark Osborne. Mark has spent the entirety of his career in home furnishings, bridging the gap between both indoor and outdoor in various leadership roles for iconic brands like Baker, Holly Hunt, and Didon. His resume spans from managing multiple channels of sales distribution for both retail and trade levels across the US, Canada, and Latin America, to overseeing operations and distribution with the manufacturing arms of luxury brands. He is currently the Director of Residential Sales at MAMAGREEN, an emerging brand in the US that has a focus on environmentally sensitive product that excels at customization. So let's welcome them and thank them for.
Sounds really good.
You know, in the design community, we've been using the phrases like blurring the lines between outside and inside, or bringing the outside in for decades, really. And as an editor, I kind of hate to use a phrase that's like, tried, I want something new, but you know, there's nothing that really summarizes so much the moment I think that we're in right now. Is this outdoor-indoor dynamic. People are moving into cities, and then they want to take a little nature with them in this urban environment. And then there are people who are working remotely and now moving further out than ever before and surrounding themselves with nature in a way that they haven't. I mean, gardening has taken off on TikTok. It's all over TikTok, believe it or not. So I never thought I'm not a real TikToker, but apparently there's all kind of mulching going on TikTok. But anyway, and then of course, the pandemic made everyone appreciate outdoor spaces because they felt safe, they were a good place to exercise. So it's really brought a great appreciation for the outdoor spaces. My first question for you guys is, like, do you think this is just a moment in time and we're going to sort of go back to the way things were, or do you think this sort of passion for the outdoor spaces is here to stay? This is going to be a fundamental change to the way we live.
I don't think so. I think good design has always been about bringing the in out and the out in. That natural light is important. It's energy, it's life, it's calming, it's relaxing, it's restorative. So we've always had that, and so to me it's more important now, but probably because of the stress in everyday world. But no, it's always been around, and I think it'll always be this way. There really is no real difference between now and 30 years ago or 20 years ago, other than we can do it better, easier and faster and cheaper.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I would just add to that and say, from a sales driving standpoint, outdoor for at least like 7 years has been the fastest growing segment of the industry. So in response to your question, it's certainly not going away. I think the last 2 years have really amplified the focus on outdoor. So yeah, to his point, it's not going away. What it looks like and what plateaus and stuff like that could change, but yeah, I think that's what makes it exciting. What's interesting to me, most of my career was really spent indoor with Baker, the bulk of my career in Holly, and when I moved to outdoor, it's surprising in the design community how many interior designers at that time really didn't touch outdoor. They would turn it over to someone, and you see more and more people that focus on indoor getting involved in outdoor, which is exciting. And the principles from a design standpoint are really the same. It's just materials and application and things that you have to consider a little bit different.
Yeah. I found some interesting, and I was mentioning this to you guys before, an interesting survey that was done by the International Casual Furnishings Association. This was done last year, and they found that 6 in 10 Americans plan to buy at least one new piece of furniture or accessories for outdoor in the coming year. Millennials are just sort of reaching the age where they're doing a lot of entertaining at home, and so that's sort of happening at the same time, and they're really motivated to create outdoor spaces. They are more likely than baby boomers to buy pieces that were sort of considered indoor pieces, like a sofa or a rug or a throw pillow. They're much more likely to buy that type of thing and put it in the outdoor space. Of people who are planning to buy outdoor furnishings, outdoor lighting is the most frequently mentioned at 52%. Then lounge chairs and chaises, a fire pit, and dining table and chairs. 3/4 of Americans use their patios for relaxation, 58% for entertaining, and interestingly, over half for outdoor cooking. So that's the other big part of the trend that we'll be talking about.
I mean, you are adding a lot of livable, usable space by building out your backyard, which is great for, especially if you're city dwellers and you have smaller homes. You're adding that, and there's a multitude, like you're saying, of like activities you can have, gardening, cooking, lounging, hosting, so
Yeah.
beneficial.
I've heard Michelle, are you here? She's here somewhere, I think. But Michelle at Colo was saying that when she got into, I was reading your bio somewhere. I can't remember where that was. But that when you got into the industry, you found that Europeans were willing to spend all this money on outdoor furnishings, but Americans were a little slower to do that. And, you know, like when I was a kid, it was like a picnic table, and there were always lots of splinters, you know. But the world has come very far, and do you guys find that people are, Americans or, you know, any clients, wherever you are embracing this higher end outdoor product now?
Yeah, definitely. Especially it's like all in the pitch, right? It's like explaining and educating your clients that if you go low end, it might have a life cycle of a couple of years.
Yeah.
You spend that 40% more, you can get 4 times the longevity of your furniture. It fades, it splinters. I mean, I had this call the other day. It's so embarrassing, but she's like, my chair is sprouting mushrooms. And I'm like, I don't understand why is this happening? But it was just like really low-end furniture, so I'm educating myself better so I can really help my clients out, but they're getting there,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I think they're starting making that same sort of transition indoors. It's so easy. So much was accessible, you know, like with the advent of Instagram and Wayfair and all this stuff, people were like, this is great. And I remember, you know, my son got married and I was going to give him this sofa. It was a really well-made sofa, you know, that we had purchased in North Carolina. I'm like, this is a good sofa. And he's like, no, we're just going to get one over at Costco. I'm like, okay.
No.
And it lasted them all of a year.
Right.
You know.
It's harmful for the environment. I mean, it's rotating. I don't think fast fashion has to also translate to furniture. And so quality.
Yeah. I think that is an ironic thing, you know, that's people, especially younger consumers, are gravitating toward, you know, the IKEAs of the world, but yet they also have such a heart for sustainability, and it's the worst thing you can do, because you're throwing my son's throwing the Costco sofa, you know, in a year in the dump.
We've all done that, though. It's, you know, you buy something that looks pretty cool, but it literally disintegrates in 6 months. And so that's part of the problem with outdoor furniture, is to get something that's durable. We're going through that now. It's expensive.
Yeah.
To get something that can last and won't stain, you've got you know, the requirement of doing something that's really high quality, you know, adds cost.
Yeah.
So I think it's daunting, and it's easy to go the Costco route, but certainly, and if it's broken or ugly or stained, you're just not going to use it.
It also comes with maintenance. I'm so sorry. Go
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, to your point about the picnic tables, you know, I remember that experience. But back in the day, outdoor was, you know, at best it was a picnic table or it was a set that all matched, which really wasn't that different for indoor back in the day either. But outdoor was always treated as an add-on or, you know, kind of an afterthought is probably too severe of a term, but it wasn't the primary thing that people focused on. Now, as you know, the outdoors is a reflection of people's, you know, lifestyle, and they want that. So those work in tandem with their ability to embrace design and all those things. They're willing to invest more in the outdoor because now they see it as the entirety of who they are as an individual, right?
Definitely.
And the perception that, you know, used to be, you know, a ranch house, you're either inside or you're outside, and the outside was sort of a play set and, you know, the old bench you didn't want to sit on, but now it's a room, it's a space. And so you start to think about your porch the same way you would think about your living room, higher quality furniture. And so that extension from inside to out is what really extends the living space. And now you've got some really amazing products out there, beautiful lights, furniture. It's just incredible what you can get.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, really, like the ranch house, the whole concept of the ranch house was embracing, in some ways, the outdoor-indoor aesthetic. It started so that in California, where you could just walk outside and be outside, and, you know, your home was built around the outdoor spaces, and then it just got kind of ruined.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shoebox. The way we all think of a ranch is that 50s shoebox. You're either inside or you're out, and brick walls and little compartmentalized rooms. So I agree. It's that hopefully that's gone. And
Yeah. Well, Mark, tell us about Mama Green, because I mean, sustainability is a big part of.
Oh, yeah, so I think, happy to talk about MAMAGREEN. Aside from, so what we tried to do, so all the pieces that are here on the panel are actually from MAMAGREEN, and tried to tie this idea that you see even reflected in these pieces. In a way, some of these feel like a piece that you might have indoor, but this product is called Stam Skin, and it's essentially a faux leather that's made by Ferrari that they use in all of their high-end yachts. So you see more and more materials that lend themselves, and it sprays down and washes off easy. It's not cheap, but you know what, it's a luxury look. But MAMAGREEN, really, our heritage starts with the idea of sustainability. Our product is all kind of handcrafted and made in Indonesia. And it started really with teak as the cornerstone of the business, and all of the 90% of the teak that we use in our product is reclaimed. So we have teams that go out and reclaim churches or buildings that are abandoned, and we bring them in and hone them. The other 10% is from sustainably farmed areas. So, and then we repeat that philosophy in terms of, our powder coating. If we don't, whatever scraps we have, we melt them down and repurpose them to other vendors, all the textiles. So the philosophy is sustainably centric. I don't know that anyone really can claim that they live with a zero footprint, but if you're working toward that objective, so that's what we do. What I love about MAMAGREEN, to me, Michelle's heard me say this a million times in all of my dealers, but Baker and Holly and Daydon, all incredibly iconic companies. MAMAGREEN is like that smaller company that I can do kind of customizable things. So the customer wants a dining table 3 inches longer. They want an umbrella hole when it didn't have an umbrella hole, or they want it 3 inches higher because most European designed product is, I'm sure you all know, like you're sitting on the floor. So they want it 3 inches higher. So that gives us a lot of freedom to kind of address this niche in the marketplace. So, and we're small and just really kind of growing, and so that makes it exciting for me. Did that answer your question?
Yeah,
I'm sorry when I started talking.
I was just
about
curious.
that, ramble on.
What do you guys find when you are, introducing your clients to, you're talking to them about investing more in their outdoor spaces? Where do you start? I mean, obviously some clients are like whatever, but a lot of people are not whatever. So do you start with the furniture? Do you start with custom upholstery? Do you start with, cooking appliances? What do you find people are most receptive to sort of getting started?
In what we do with the outdoor kitchen area, we always start with appliances first. And that's the same as indoor, because it kind of drives the layout, the space, what we're needing. Especially now we have the grill, we have the green egg, we have the other burner, and then we also have all of that because we want it on the porch, under the roof with everything else. We have to think about ventilation, and we have to think about ways to get all of that out. So the space has grown a lot, where we were used to just have a grill outside. Now we have every component that a client has in their main kitchen, 10 feet away, they want the same component outside.
Paella, pizza,
Correct.
we gotta have it all. Yeah.
So ovens are hard because we don't have ovens for outdoor. So we have to reuse the pizza oven in a way that, teach them that they're gonna use this like they're gonna use the oven. Especially during, the pandemic, when people were needing a break from this room, they moved to this room or they moved outside. So that actually started changing a lot of that. But now these houses are so open, sometimes the kitchen and the outdoor kitchen are very close to each other. So we have to think about, where is that going to happen? And does it happen in the family area? Does it happen near the pool? What's going to happen there? And usually the appliances are driving that. Unfortunately, right now, the appliances are driving other issues too. So
18 months.
The lead times aren't favorable.
We start with like a whole mood board, just like the interior. The bidding process for the exterior has become just as tedious as interior, but really figuring out all of the ways that they want the backyard to serve them. So lifestyle-wise, all the different activities. Do you want to cook? Do you want to garden? Then we create a mood board for every single component to make sure we really understand the aesthetics, budget it out, create a priority list, and then go from there.
Yeah, for us, we do more of the architecture, so we're doing the design of the entire house. But it's another room. And we tell clients it's the cheapest room. I mean, we're not building anything; it's already there. So
Yeah.
you know, we should at least take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So rather than building a living room, how about we just put in a $10,000 door that allows you to expand the small space you have into an outside area. So, but we treat it like we design it like a room. Obviously. If you look at a yard or a porch, I mean, there's different sort of rules. You need a larger space than you would inside because it feels much smaller if you're in a confined little area outside. But it's really the same sort of concept. It's another room and how it relates to other rooms within the house and beyond.
David, going back to the kitchen, I mean, it is tempting to want all those appliances. Like, where do you, for the person who can't just write the blank check, where do you tell them to start?
Well, I mean, everyone wants to grill, and we tell everyone when we're designing an interior kitchen, we try not to do the interior grill ever, especially here in the South, because you can grill, 12 months out of the year.
Yeah.
But it also depends on where the project is. Like I have a project in Aspen right now. We can't have an outdoor sink. We can't have an outdoor refrigeration because of some of the temperatures get low. They do make appliances for it, but because of the predicament of where this particular kitchen is, it would be under, several feet of snow most of the year. So there are things that kind of drive us in that direction. But usually the client can kind of give you an idea of how they're going to use it. Even if they're not cooking out there, they're still going to need refrigeration. So refrigerator drawers, ice machines are very, very important outside for some clients because they may not cook a lot. And this is the same concept as indoors. A lot of our clients say, I don't care what you put in there because I don't use it. I'm not going to cook.
Yeah.
Well, you do have an opinion about a refrigerator and an ice maker. Oh, well, yeah, I do. So that is typically where I drive them first. Let's talk about this. Then we move to a grill. But everyone now has, all of the other types of cooking, whether it's the green egg or we're seeing a lot of griddles, we're seeing a lot of smokers. So typically we start with a grill because it is the one thing that you don't want to do inside. But from there, then we just kind of add on as we need to go. Grill and refrigeration to me is the most important part.
Yeah. What the Meals on Wheels space is kind of interesting to create a space, an event space outdoors. That's sort of a new thing. Tell us a little bit about that space.
So the way that, it's been 2.5 years now we've been working on this project. They came to us because we were kitchen people. And we said, well, we are kitchen people, but we're not commercial people. So we had to bring in a lot of our resources and pull a lot of our vendors together to make this work. But one of the goals for the facility, because they actually, the year before that, had actually purchased their entire facility outright, so they own the entire building. The first goal there was to create a larger commercial kitchen to feed more families. But in that process, what we kind of did with Design Galleria was carved out the middle of it and said, we think that we need a way to drive revenue back to this, not just ask for donations. So in that space, we created a demonstration kitchen that is a lot of our products, a lot of our vendors, all of our products and all of our vendors. Sub-Zero Wolf is putting all the appliances in there. And that kitchen was designed to bring in local chefs and the Boys and Girls Club and have community classes where we're not just feeding people, we're also teaching them how to cook and ways to cook. So once we got to that point, we decided to put in the expensive big doors that open the whole space up and create a courtyard. So then we had a garden kind of courtyard feel. Then we decided, well, at that point, why don't we put an outdoor kitchen here? So now there is a demonstration kitchen outdoors that will have a grill. It has the It has a pizza oven, a grill, the green egg, an actual cooking area, outdoor sink, and all of that, so that we can use both areas. But in that particular space, we're showing how both spaces interact very well together, and how both spaces can be used simultaneously at the same time. And that space is designed around, there's 2 courtyards there. One's a garden and one's more of an entertaining courtyard with a kitchen in it. So it's one way for us to be able to show, this versatility without doing that here in our showroom. But I think it's actually going to get people more involved in that area.
Yeah. We are so lucky here that we can be outdoors, almost year round. It's like as soon as that green pollen is gone, I'm outside. I'm curious if any of you guys have gotten requests to create sort of the more unconventional outdoor spaces, like an outdoor office or a she shed, or even, just a little folly or something. Have any of y'all worked on anything like that?
I'm sure that we have. I think what you want to do is create a space that's somewhat transitional. So people, especially nowadays, you're sitting in your dining room or you're sitting on your porch. There's a lot of pools, but I don't know that I've done anything a lot. We're doing now a sort of a cabana-like thing that does all, has a hot tub in it, and it's the pool that kind of extends out. So and it's an outdoor kitchen. So we create sort of multifunctional spaces that can work as in a bunch of different ways. We've done exercise rooms, that you can open up and it becomes a porch.
Yeah.
So to me, the office, I think you mentioned that as one of the questions you were going to ask, and that's a great idea. Yeah, I wish we thought of that.
That'd be cool. Yeah, if you do one, let us know, because then we'll publish it.
We will now.
Yeah. We did have, in the issue that's coming out, our summer issue of Home, we did a children's spaces, and kids were getting claustrophobic. Everybody was claustrophobic, and so this one couple, they had this. It was like a workroom storage shed, and they turned it into an art shed for their kids. Nice. And it's just so cute, and the kids, they can do anything out there. It doesn't matter, and make a huge mess. And it's just so clever, and it's just, it's not heated or cool, but they're kids. So.
We've had requests for outdoor ping pong tables in the last couple of years, because they can make them with the HPL, so that's sustainable outdoors.
Those are cool. What about games, like pickleball courts and putt-putt, or all the other various things? Are you getting requests for that type of thing?
Yeah, my favorite is the 3-in-1 bocce ball court, horseshoe toss, and then there's the cornhole. Because you just really need a 20-foot stretch of land, and then you could do all 3 in 1. So that's one of my favorite to integrate.
We worked on a project that had a long strip of artificial grass, and it was a tumbling, kid sort of tumbling kind of space. That was really cool. I mean, it was beautiful, and it worked. Yeah. It's soft. It's an ideal place to let the kid go run back and forth as much as he can.
What do y'all think about the artificial grass?
I love it.
I love it too.
It's really becoming much more acceptable.
The quality's gotten better.
Yeah. It's not like the old days with the picnic table where it turns green or not green.
You don't end up with a lot of grass in your pool, which is nice too.
Yeah.
All right, so because I can't get totally on board with the fake grass.
Oh, good.
So I do want you to know, we're going to say, let's just say that everything has an appropriate application and an inappropriate application. Okay. So I could negotiate that.
I also want to talk a little, spend a lot of time talking about outdoor, but I also want to talk about the indoors. And Nishi, in your bio, you mentioned the biophilic design, which is a term I'm running into more and more, which is just designing spaces that increase people's connection to nature. And there's just so many different ways to think about that. One is simply to think about the elements of nature, and light is one of the first things I know. Eric, you mentioned that in your bio, is like the looking for ways to sculpt natural light. I'm curious, what do you mean by that?
a light, that's a whole, they're books. But,
Yeah.
so a brief, to me, it's a way of adding, it sort of marks time. And so you have this, in our house, so I always tell the story, we have a sort of a weird little house. And if you sit in our living room on Saturday morning, especially during the winter, you get this moment where sort of light comes in from these upper clear story windows, and we have arch around the staircase, and it's like a sculpture, and you watch it sort of move. So so it does a lot of different things. It grounds you. It makes you present to that moment. You see this sort of interesting flash of light, and you go, "Wow, that's really cool." And it makes you stop, and you forget about the kids and that guy who flipped you off when you were driving home or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that to me is part of it. But it's also energy, it's relaxation, it's calming, it's reflecting light off of plants. So there's a lot that happens. It's also free. So if getting it into the house may have cost a little bit of money, but it's a really nice way to add energy to life and to a space and mark time. You know when it's light is, when it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 8 in the morning. When you look at I always talk about this outside corner, it's all painted the same, but the way the light hits it, that paint color changes. And so and that's constantly evolving, and we can't really do that with artificial light. So to me, it's one of the most important elements that we have to play with.
So as an architect, when you plan a space, is that something that you are looking at from the beginning, thinking of?
Yeah, it's technology is we have this little computer that we can carry around with us, and actually we can pull it out and tell exactly where the sun's going to be at any moment.
Really?
Yeah, for free. I mean, it's the craziest thing ever. So yeah, you always should be thinking, and the more you get comfortable with a space, the more you recognize how that light works. It's why outdoor spaces are so appealing to people, I think.
So you spend that time planning the light coming in, and then the interior designer comes back
And puts
plans
drapes.
the drapery.
Exactly.
To block it out.
That's exactly
But
right.
that's the whole point of really understanding biophilic design, because when we talk about space and light, it's really important to get rid of those plantation shutters. Stop blocking all the natural light. If you have curtains, move them to the outside frame of your window. Do roller shades. You can tuck them away. They're so nice and neat, and then you can have your privacy when you need it. But I think if we learn more about it, we can really extend that to our clients, and it's so beneficial for them. We're talking about cognitive health. We're talking about mood and overall productivity. And so I've been learning so much more about it recently, but natural forms, patterns, shapes, and how they can lend in hand. It's not just planting a plant in the corner of your house. You have to think of it end to end, but it has amazing benefits.
Yeah. What about other elements of nature on the inside? Water or fire. Do you find yourself incorporating those types of things more for sort of the same sort of meditative benefits that the light gives you?
Sound is huge. So, you talked about water. If you can find a way to get a water feature, sound will block out, water will block out anything, car traffic, airplanes, snoring. I mean, it really is amazing what you can do. So, and it's a much more relaxing, or even the wind blowing through, leaves. It's amazing how that can calm you down. So sound is a huge thing that we don't think about a lot when we're designing.
How would you get the sound of water into a house?
It has to do with how you design the water feature. So, you want to reflect that sound in, and then it's going to be usually through open doors or windows or some other method of getting it in. But reflecting that sound back in the direction you want it to go is really what's important.
We're actually designing one right now. It's this 12-foot tall curved water feature right outside of an extension of a sunroom. So when you walk in through the front door and all throughout the house, you just see this massive water feature, uplit, backlit, side lit, and then we have these 2 doors that you can open up to the sunroom, and all of that sound will flow through the home. So it's still an outdoor element. You don't have to worry about the daily maintenance of it being indoors, because we've had some bad experiences with indoor water features. But I was like, water is everything. So we figured out a way where it's a focal point. It's beautiful. You can close the doors if you don't want it. You can open them if it's a breezy day. So that's one way we're doing it.
One of the things that, among many things that fascinates me about the houses in Alice Beach, is the way they incorporate. That's actually in the issue that's on your chairs. That's Alice Beach. It's Tom Glavin's house, and it's just, you can hear the water. They have the water features. Of course, you've got the ocean, but they incorporate all these water features throughout the home and all these little courtyards. It's just, it seems so calming.
It's whimsical.
Yeah. What about sort of in a very literal sense? Do you find people are gravitating towards wallpapers with natural patterns or colors, green, and I mean, just in a very literal sense nature? Do you find people are going for that?
I try to steer them away from the literal wallpaper that's like palm leaves, but
Yeah.
sisal, arrowroot, there's like so many beautiful fibers out there, and if you just use them in the appropriate way, whether it's through your upholstery, your curtains, your pillows, it'll give you that essence without being so like palm leaf. Yeah, like it's a little too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, because a thought to that, when you think in reverse of what outdoor and the evolution of outdoor has brought to indoor, is now you see these incredible outdoor textiles from companies like Great Plains and Perennials that people are actually, and they're intended for outdoor or designed for outdoor, but people are incorporating them indoor because their resistance to fading, whether you're indoor or outdoor, the resistance to soiling is superior, and the hand on them is for outdoor textiles is so much better than it was even just 10 years ago.
Right.
So I think that's interesting, like a reverse kind of contribution to the community.
Yeah. What about incorporating actual plants? Nishi, I know you've done some creative things, like you've actually done the plant wall. Like, how do you do that?
So it takes a little bit of plumbing, because we did this like 20-foot expanse and then like 10-foot tall, and it's just live plants edge to edge. So when you walk in through the front door, it just takes your breath away. So we had to do a water line above, and then it trickles down the plants, and it kind of empties itself into a little bucket that you have to empty every week. But then we got the subscription through this company, so every month they just come and replenish any of the plants that die. But it's great CO2 circulation, oxygen circulation, so it just feels so vibrant. And
do you have favorite plants you like to incorporate? Like, that obviously is quite dramatic, but in smaller doses, do you have certain plants that you
like? There's pothos are beautiful. There's monsteras. I love even snake plants. Anything low light, I think there's like a good 20 plants that I've noticed that really do thrive in low light, but those are a few of them.
So I think I know what Mark's going to say about this, but what about fake plants?
Why would you assume that? So let's assume that you do know the answer and you let them speak to that.
Is there ever a place for a fake plant or fake greenery?
I will say this, there's incredible synthetic plants now that you can't, there's like I said, there's an appropriate application for anything. You can incorporate them sometimes with real plants and not know the difference. Actually, showroom environments from a vendor standpoint is an ideal example of that, because in design centers, a lot of the showroom spaces don't have any natural light, and especially if you're in the outdoor world, you want something that gives that experience. So it's challenging, but I think there's room for synthetic plants for sure.
It's your ability to maintain it too.
Yeah.
Like if you can't take care of your plants, they're just dying in a corner, that's not pleasant. So if you're like, I need a plant, go get you a fake plant, it's okay, we forgive you.
I mean, apparently, probably the TikTokers are really into like collecting their plants, and now there was this whole story in the New York Times like last week about their, plants are in and plants are out, and they're going for very exotic plants, and I'm thinking, they're going to be hard to tend, and so.
Well, I think now you can tell the people who've returned back to the office, because their indoor plants don't look quite as healthy.
Yeah.
So,
It's a hobby, it was a hobby.
Well, good. Well, I want to be sure and leave time for some questions from everyone. But I had, one last question. This relates to the plants that are in or out. I want each of you to answer this. Fiddly Fig, yes or no?
No.
No.
My wife is saying no, so I'm going to stick with that. Jenny says no.
it's funny you talk about this, because I killed a very expensive Fiddly Fig very quickly. And so now we have replaced it with a fake Fiddly Fig.
Oh, I love it, the perfect circle.
It is a 10-foot tree, so it's kind of hard to get close to it to tell that it's not real. So
Just burn the edges a little grill.
There you go.
Mark?
Wait, so is the Fiddly Fig, is this an Atlanta thing?
Well,
'Cause I don't really
that
know
is
much about
It's the one
plants,
with
so
the
I'm
great
not even
big-
sure what
great
one
big
looks
green-
like. What does it
Like
look
a
like?
big elephant ear looking, and
Yeah,
then it's
big
just like
green leg.
tall trunk, and then just like blossoms out.
Oh, you know, I don't.
I would say
I
they're
don't-
very like.
I don't have
It's
an
what
opinion
so many
whether it's in
designers
or out.
used that it almost like they outplayed it
Yeah,
very
it
quickly.
became very trendy.
Yeah.
Been overdone.
Yeah. Well, that's funny. Well, that's great. Well, we are going to take some questions, and Katie has a microphone, and she will bring it to you if you can raise your hand if you have a question.
Any questions? We've had a quiet crowd these days.
Late afternoon.
Yeah. Sure, hold on one second.
So if the Fiddly Fig is out, what's the new plant that's in to replace it?
That's a good question.
A money tree these days.
Right?
Exactly.
Lemon
Good
trees are
answer, too.
adorable. Olive trees are beautiful.
Clearly, I kill plants, so I'm not
Yeah.
the person to answer this.
And I'm trying to listen. So what was that?
Monsteras are beautiful. Anything that just blossoms big. And I really love when plants kind of start from the bottom and then blossom out instead of just like the trunk and then it's all up in the air. So more full
Agreed.
from the bottom up. Orchids, no, they're classic.
They're timeless.
Yeah.
Timeless.
You just have to be able to keep them alive.
Yes.
Yeah,
Water it once a week.
yeah.
All right, we've got it.
As we begin to move into more communal spaces now, moving out of the pandemic, and thinking about people who are wanting more connectivity, have you all had any projects where you're putting neighbor backyard spaces together or tiny house communities or anything?
Yeah, we're doing one right now where actually we're moving in-laws in, and they're moving into an apartment in the back. And so, you know, it's challenging, especially on interior lots. But a lot of times, and in this case, we use the exterior outdoor space as kind of a gathering, a meeting place. And you design it in a way that you can have your privacy and your seclusion, but at the same time come together when you want to. So yeah, that happens. And with ADUs and what's happening in Atlanta right now, it's going to become more and more important. And communal spaces, coming into someone, you know, it used to be back in the 70s and the 80s, the thing was you had communal kitchens or living areas, and it's a little, you know, kitchens are still fairly private, but an outdoor space, you know, you have room to kind of get away and escape. So yeah, I think so. And the last thing on that is Olmsted design, Druid Hills is a beauty. If you ever want to drive through, it's gorgeous. And his whole sort of trick was to visually take the neighbor's yard and make it feel like it's part of yours. And so he designed it in a way so it rolls and you're able to get these diagonal views through people's yards. It's stunning. I mean, and if you just ever pull up onto South Ponce and look down over the gardens, you don't see any roads, and you see it feels like miles. It's not, but you feel like you're looking through these open areas. So it has been done, and it's a great way to do it.
Druid Hills is celebrating, what would it be, an anniversary of Olmsted? Like,
It started in 1908, so it's
like, I think it's, anyway, they're celebrating him right now.
Yeah.
I don't remember the year.
Yeah, it's one of his. I mean, it's
Yeah.
stunning. It's one of the most beautiful things that he did.
Yeah. It was one of the last things he did, too, I believe.
Yeah.
The end of his life.
Any of the others have thoughts on that? Doing any of that design? No? Any other questions?
I have,
If you don't mind, I'm going to put, because we've got a camera and we're trying to record these for everyone for afterwards.
Condo living is very tricky, and so outdoor spaces are obviously limited. So how do you create a really attractive, welcoming area when you're limited on space like that?
Like an outdoor space? To me, if you're working in a smaller sort of environment, it becomes, like it's cool to do, you know, a 25-foot folding door if you have a big yard and you're able to kind of look out over water or whatever. But the more confined it is, the more precious it feels. So to me, what happens is you start to scale it down a little bit. You have fewer things out there, but what you have is really, it's more special. Maybe there's no way to actually, or there's limited sort of ways to get out into it. Obviously, privacy is probably a bigger issue. So, you know, if you can funnel the view in a direction that makes sense. Now, if you go to just look at Japan, they're fantastic with creating these little interior courtyards that are full of light and life, but they're very simple. You know, if there's a couple of great horror movies that are designed about, you know, these modern houses, and you know, those courtyards they have are spectacular. So it becomes much more about creating sort of a reductive space that's very natural and very light and very serene, you know, as opposed to something that's just full of life. And you can do it, it's just a little bit harder. We have a picture somewhere where we had a landscape architect came in, we did a little corner window, small little urban garden kind of thing, and he took pieces of bamboo and stuck it in the dirt and did some uplighting, and it was like, oh my God, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It's the coolest thing about that damn picture is the stupid bamboo we put in the courtyard. So that's how I would do it.
I think really big pieces of art that have a lot of depth to them. I know a lot of people like to do mirrors because it helps to reflect, but I love art that just feels like it goes on forever. And the more you have of those, I feel like your spaces will naturally feel elongated. So that's a good one for me.
What about art outdoors? I mean, how do you, that's tricky.
Left Bank does a lot of amazing outdoor art. Almost every piece that they have can come in an outdoor. Outdoor frame. So we hang those. You have to secure them really well, but our clients tend to love those pieces.
And there's no, you know, remember we now have the capacity to open up entire walls. So it's a lot of times it's cheaper to put in a big 30-foot folding or 20-foot folding.
So we'll call
door.
you for the doors.
Exactly. You know, it's cheaper to do that than to build a screen porch. And so you just make and then you have your art, you know, inside, outside.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Yes.
Hi, when it comes to smaller spaces, you know, with like the climate and the state of the world right now and people moving further out of the city versus inside the city, do you see people like incorporating their knowledge of biophilic design and wanting to like scale down in size when it comes to homes?
We are personally seeing a lot of, especially in South Florida right now, a lot of people from New York City moving down there. I have 3 clients right now that were living in the city but came to Florida during the pandemic because they needed some space for their families. And in that case, it went the opposite. They went from this small condo in the city to this massive house. And then they're looking at us like, what do we do with this much space? We've lived in the city for 20 years. So I'm kind of seeing it going the opposite way because people are pulling away from the city living. I have a feeling it's going to turn back around.
Yeah.
People that live 20 years in New York City are going to get tired of, you know, West Palm at some point.
2008 did it for us. I mean, that was something that where people, they didn't want to look ostentatious, so people went with smaller sort of spaces. But Atlanta is in particular, so good about, you know, 800 square feet or less ADUs. You know, it's becoming a part of the everyday environment. So I think we are heading that way, at least for some sector. But, you know, nothing does it like a recession. So.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
I think, you know, statistically, Atlanta anyway, the trends are balancing each other out. Like just, there are a lot of people moving into the city. There are a lot of people moving here from other cities, from, you know, New York, California, Chicago. But then there are people in Atlanta that are moving out because they want more space with the pandemic and everything. So it's really kind of hard to say one trend is dominant over the other. They sort of balance each other out here. Now, that's not true in other cities. Other cities are sort of experiencing some flight, but Atlanta, it's balancing. I mean, you know, having the Beltline, so many people want to come and live near that, and it's a whole new way to experience a city that Atlanta hasn't had in a long time.
That's my take on it, too. I think people are coming in and willing to accept smaller, more confined sort of spaces.
All right. Any last questions? What about those putting greens? That's my husband's thing.
That's what my husband wants, is the putting green.
All right, any last questions? No? Okay, well, let's take this upstairs. Thank you so much to our panelists. That was a lot of fun, especially for spring outdoors. Let's go to Colo Collection, Suite 323, and carry the discussion on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Won't you